What's happening, friends? Trumpeter and international man of mystery Bobby Spellman here. And I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. For the holiday break, and before we get started in our new Jazz Harmony series in 2025, I wanted to take a little time to take you back in time to check out some interviews that I did with some great jazz musicians back in 2020 and 2021 for a series that I called Jazztopia. In this episode, we are going to hear from the great composer John Hollenbeck about his different approaches to composition. My hope is one day to revive this series and to do some more interviews with jazz musicians. So if you want to keep up to date on that, you can follow us on our YouTube channel in the link below, the Jazztopia YouTube channel. You can also check out this entire interview on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. It's been a little while since I've done these interviews and life has been a little busy, but I really learned a lot from these and I hope that you will too. So without further ado, here he is, the great John Hollenbeck.
Theory with Bob.
So let's say you have a poem or a book or an image or an idea, and you say, all right, let's try to write a piece on this. Are you then thinking, let me try to pull the emotion from this, or what is the response that I have to this? How do you begin then turning that into a piece of music?
Right. So that would also be different for each piece and each poem. So, and that would also be something that I kind of gather together lists of processes. And so I would not repeat myself, I might repeat myself like 10 years later or 5 years later, but not tomorrow. And so that part of that would be about how to use, let's say a poem, how to use that poem. And so some poems you just want to like set, it's a poem. You want to set that poem. One of the last poems I did, I think I just wanted to set it because I want everybody to hear this poem. I love this poem. And so it's just about, you get into, trying to make sure that the emotion of the poem is there and the lyrics, and you might use text painting and things like that. So that's definitely something I've done and that I would do. On the other extreme, I did a piece with a poem. I mean, now this is a experimental poem. So, the poem is it's a Japanese poem. It's a Japanese poet who all his poetry is just using the Japanese numbers 1 and 2. And It's amazing. It looks amazing. And when he recites it, it's like beautiful rhythms. So now there, I mean, there's not maybe a lot, you could say like not a lot of text painting possibilities or setting, the lyrics. So there I just was using the structure of the poem. So, I took his structure and used that to create. It gave me the whole piece. I had to find, basically I had to do some assigning of pitches and as obviously assigning of instruments, but it gave me basically the piece is just there, already. I just had to like kind of pull it out. So that's like totally different use of poetry. So everything in between, but so sometimes using just the rhythms, sometimes trying to get pitches out of the poems, sometimes maybe just using the letters of the words of the poems or the syllables. There's a lot of musicians that have done that type of thing, like using just the syllable, I forgot what you call that, but the syllable rhythm, the rhythms that you get, the number of rhythms and all that. I think I did a Shakespeare piece and definitely, came up with the phrasing from the actual, sonnet.
Mm-hmm. Sure. But it sounds like you're changing your process for every piece.
Exactly.
That's kind of amazing.
Every piece has a different process. Yeah. So, I keep really lists of like how to begin a piece. And so these are just fictitious pieces that haven't happened yet, but maybe someday might happen, you know. So all the ways you can start a piece, all the things that you can use to start a piece. Then those things that you start a piece with, all the ways to develop those things. Different ways to use form, and so kind of doing all that pre-composition work helps when you're in the moment. You're not so like, oh no, what do I do? You're like, oh, well, you know, I've thought about this, I've done this. It gets a little harder the more you write if you don't want to repeat yourself, because it's like, oh, that's a great idea. No, I did that. Oh, no, I did that. You know, it takes a little longer to come up with the new thing. Whereas like when you're younger, it's like every time you write a piece, like, oh, I've never done this. I've never done this. I've never done this. You know, after 10 or 15 years, that part gets a little bit harder.
Sure.
So yeah, creating these lists has helped to, you know, kind of in moments when I'm not writing a piece, to think about it.
Yeah. So is it something like as you're listening to music, or as you're just you'll start to think about, oh, here's a possibility, and just conceptualize that. What is, you know, here's a beginning to a piece that I could use. Here's a way I could develop it, whatever, and literally write it down and have it around.
Yeah. A lot. It doesn't. I would say most of the time it doesn't come from listening to music, but it has on occasion, and I would say it would come from you know, like hearing something and thinking, oh, I could do that, but over here, like, right now I'm listening to it here, you know. So like the example I use with students, I think, is how many times have you heard an orchestral piece that starts out with 8 bars of drums? Let's say it's rare. Anyway,
Yeah, sure, right.
And now it's 8 bars of improv drums on drum set. Okay, now we're getting like even much rarer, you know.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So that's like something in one area that's pretty common. You know, go to a jam session, you'll hear drums play 8 bars out front sometime that night, probably. You know, so, but then you take that thing and you put it in another world, and it's totally, all of a sudden it's like, wow, that would sound really cool. And it could, you know, it could lead to, oh, well, I'm actually going to have somebody improvise, you know, but then that can lead to practical concerns like, is there a drum set player in the orchestra? Oh, there's not. Okay. All right. Well, or is there someone that can improvise? Oh, no, there's not. Okay. So then, you know, it means like, okay, now I'm going to write a percussion intro that sounds like a live improvised drum set solo, you know. So that sounds, that could be amazing.
Sure.
Right. But it's pretty normal in one place, and then another place it's like, whoa.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Interesting. And do you so what do you have as a routine? Do you wake up and every day you have a certain amount of time that you write, or how do you then go about creating new music just from the ideas?
I wish I could do that. I don't have, you know, I've never really figured out the lifestyle choices to make that happen.
Sure.
What I just did when I was in New Mexico, but I haven't done that in a while, but there was about 10 years where I did this every year, where I would go to an artist retreat for about a month and just write, like not play drums or anything, just write. And there, of course, you know, that's when I'm waking up in the morning and writing. And of course the rest of the year was not like that at all, because I'm playing and I'm teaching and traveling, and so that period would just feed the rest of the year. Like I would start things and finish them later, and gather together lots of things, you know, that I didn't necessarily finish. sometimes I actually would like finish it, but I'm like, I don't know what this is or what it's for. And then, like 6 months later, I'm like, hey, remember that thing? Like that could go with this thing that somebody just asked me to do that I don't have time to do right now. But hey, I already started it. So, that kind of thing. So that's still kind of where I am. But I would say the other thing is it's just, very, very intense periods of writing.
Okay. And
So,
you set that aside for yourself. You say, this month, I'm going to prepare to do this, and then I'm going to dive in and get in the zone and get wild.
I wish it, yeah, it's not even that good. If I think about the last record, the song, songs you like a lot, I was just, anytime I had like a few minutes, I was thinking about it, right? For a long time. Well, like 6 months, let's say. And then, I remember talking to Alan Ferber about a couple weeks, like maybe it's like I was going to Europe. We recorded it in Europe, and I went to Europe about 2 weeks ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I talked to Alan maybe 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing this record. I haven't really started writing the music. I just started writing the music, And he was like, "Oh, that's so awesome." And I was like, "No, that's not awesome. This is not an awesome feeling. This is not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling." But, on the plane, on the trains, it got really intense because the week before I was teaching. So I'd be teaching let's say 9 to 4, and then just back to the hotel room, until 8 the next morning, and that,
Sure.
It's not my idea of fun, but
Well, you got it done.
it
seems to work.
Yeah,
but,
I did it, yeah.
So the deadlines, I guess, are sort of your friend in that respect.
Deadlines are key. Deadlines are very important. Yeah. Without deadlines, I don't think I could get anything done.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.